Oh, good morning. It's your Sensei Al Bob, and I'm just touching base with you guys. Last night, we were getting into some interesting things when someone called in, and I'm still a novice with this technology, so I answered the phone and didn't realize I kind of knocked everyone off the chat. Because it was someone I wanted to talk to. And of course, she said, "All right, are you on the chat?" I said, "Yep." And she said, "Am I on the chat?" And I said, "I don't think so." Of course, she was. The last minute or two was us saying, you know. And so I tried to get back on, and I thought I was back on, but no one was chatting for a good 30 minutes. So I should have known something was up. Something was wrong. But hey, you're Sensei Limit, your Sensei Limited, your Sensei Al Bob has his limitations. Anyway, so here it is this morning, and yesterday was, the Advent Sunday, and what is Advent? But the kind of oh, Jesus is coming. And when you're kids, you get the little Advent calendar with all those little windows you keep opening, and actually, I've always enjoyed the anticipation of things than attaining, right? And once I attain something, I can stay at it for a while, but then, I'm like a cat looking at something, and my attention gets drawn away. And in relationships, that could or would be that. But I learned that the real deal of having a good relationship is caring about the other person more than yourself, right? What makes me happy is when the other is happy, not that I'm jealous of the other or want the other dead, which is kind of what our culture is. And that's kind of a little branch that I'm going to take. And there was the tree of life, there's the tree of good and evil, there's the tree, and off of every tree comes lots of branches. And off the tree of life, all of the great avatars, Jesus, Muhammad, Krishna, Vishnu, and many, many, many more, were branches. And those branches gave great fruit. And the problem is that most snakes would take advantage of that fruit and spoil it by giving it to the moron mud puppets, us. Right? So pretty much every religion is I have to put my other glasses on to read these. Every other religion is just mythology and a rebranding of the same story over and over again. Allow myself to listen to last video I've seen. Listen to last video. So you talk about, but have to keep my thoughts clean. Okay, I can appreciate that, and but it's always good to have a little sideband. I'm always listening to everyone else's story because I do not hold to or I'm swayed by anybody's belief structure, just an opinion. And that's what I'm getting into. All religions are basically just somebody's opinion and someone's myth, and a rebranding of the same myth over and over again. Predatory form this planet. We allow this planet to be predatory. We can change it, with a love of co-creation, predated upon by something, even if it's fire. Who's to say they're wrong? Right. I don't say anybody's wrong. I just listen to everybody's thing and look at the trend. I keep saying your Sensei Al Bob here is don't trust me, don't believe in me. I'm just here to the griot. I tell the story. What's the griot? The griot doesn't tell the truth. It may be the truth, but it's more or less a story to percolate in your mind. What should I should go look at that. I should go investigate that. I should like see how it resonates for me. Because if it doesn't resonate in your heart cavity, forget your brain pan. Your brain pan is just a Rolodex, you know. You don't really, don't believe anything your brain tells you because it's, just an illusion. It's just a database based on 0.0095% of your input. The other 99.9% of that input is coming from um, your heart. You know. Anyway, so um, don't tread on the third rail. Hey, I'm an electrician. And what is the third rail, Mr. Red? You know, you are leaving some, what's the right word? Interesting thoughts. David covers all this. Yeah, he does. Dave does cover all this. And I'm really, just if I have a message, it is to wake up, is to give a safe, what is this chat room? But a safe space for people who may not know everything that David Icke knows, people who feel something's amiss, meaning here, yeah, the third rail is just a metaphor. Nothing dies. Exactly. Yep. I'm down with that. I've died 6 times, They keep sending me back. So here I am, I've tried lots of different flavors of Al Bob, scholar, artist, social activist, spiritual leader, hedonist hitman for the corporate world of, and not hitman, but I looked at things. I never, the weapons I had were numbers at the bottom of the page and looking at trends, and understanding where people were coming from. That was my toolbox. I was just talking to a very interesting guy who actually, and that's why I like this place. I talk to everyone and I get them thinking, talking, getting them outside their box. And I can do it in a safe way that no one feels threatened or wants to threaten anyone else. Meaning I don't, rattle their cage of their belief structure. I just say, hey, you should look at it through this perspective. Yeah, Dave is. He's loads of fun. He's he is the court jester in a way, and he's bringing out, when he started, he was one of the first guys, back in the 80s when I did these conference things, and only the anointed showed up. They didn't have big crowds, and I got tired of it because it was the same crew over and over, repeating the same thing over and over. And then in the early 90s, Dave showed up on the radar screen, and he was really the most interesting guy. And he, when he first came to New York the first time, I was still somewhat involved in New York, even though I had moved out in 88 and became more, not entrenched, but in the scholarly world. I was, given the admission card as a scholar. So, somebody said, hey, man, you need to hear this guy. And, went to one of his little lectures down at the YMCA in New York. And, it had a crowd of about 200 people. And he was saying everything that I kind of had, heard of from, people like Joseph Campbell, Now, there was a guy, I used to study with him in D.C. and Georgetown. And that's why I like being a scholar, because I had real access to people who had, been around. And the thing that I liked about David was that over the last 30 years, he has become Joseph Campbell. Not Joseph, but a Joseph Campbell, meaning he is telling the story as a griot would, and he sticks to it. And yeah, he makes a living at that, but he's not becoming rich. He's not some of these people who are trying to sell, you know, aluminum hats. And he is just telling, and each one of his books, yeah, it's kind of a rehashing of the same thing. But with each book, because he's doing constant research, he's finding something new. But there's tons of really good people. There's a thing called, and there's so many amazing podcasts, and the YouTube and the web, just in general, is just a cornucopia of stuff you can look up. And I shouldn't believe anything you hear or read on the internet, but it should give you food for thought. Just like David Icke, you shouldn't believe anything he says, but he is really great at putting the dots together and looking at them. And if you see, the real problem with most people is that they have a belief structure that it's hard for them to, like 9/11, it's like right in your face, right? Donald Trump is right into your face, but the majority of the population can't disbelieve their belief structure because it's too comfortable. It's like, if they had to start questioning what they believe, oh boy, they'd have to think about what they're doing. What they just did to their kid, what they just did to their wife, what they just did to their coworker, which, when you look at is as evil as any reptilian agenda that David Icke talks about, because it is part of that same agenda. So Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al-Bab is a safe space where people can hear and talk, meaning when you go read a David Icke book or go to one of his lectures, you really can, I do like their thing, in that the community there is interesting too, But, the people who come here and chat are quite interesting, like you, Mr. Ink. You are quite interesting. You are part of the all our relations. You're part of the cadre. And it's safe for you to say whatever you want to say, because no one's going to attack. They're going to go, let me go check that out, like I am, And I really love the fact that, you're here and you're talking to me right now. Serious Communications. Mayor Bob. Yeah, Mayor Bob is a great avatar, And so what did you see down that rabbit hole? Yeah, Mayor Baba, like I said, he was an avatar. He was like up there with Vishnu, Christ, Jesus, Buddha. The Christians go, and Jesus is coming again. No, Jesus is always here in the form of somebody like Mayor Baba, or Buddha, or Vishnu, Krishna, and there's tons of them, like, where is that picture? I don't know if Mr. Ink, you've seen this. Let's see. Here we go. This picture right here. That's an Aboriginal tribe. And see that little boy right there? The one with he's got a halo. That kid, his mother, who's holding him, that kid is 4 weeks old. Look how big he is. That mother did not have was not inseminated by a man. That was, virgin birth, And if you look at all of the myths, the Babylonian, the Sumerian, all of them, there's a Jesus character in all of them, right? And, all the way up, before any of the, myths of Jesus getting, put on the cross, that character through every culture was put on a cross, mythologically or metaphorically, however you want to look at it. But we are just repeating the same storylines over and over again because they are a branded social construct that people can buy into, feel safe by. We are one. We are all our relations. We are one. When I have to fill out a form and it says what race, I put human. We all come, I'm an African American that's melanin challenged, Everyone, there is no such thing as the other in our community. Everyone in our community is a brother. Uh, yes, the all of the dark side of reptilian stem in their brain. We have three parts of our brain, and there's a part of our brain that's reptilian. And if we are, and we are put in a environment of fight or flight, not unconditional love. And that's what Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob is, as an environment of unconditional love. We come here to be together as a cadre, a community, and we co-create with love's love. We are the artist in the first person, right? We are not a advertising agency of, the horrors, which are illusions. Everything but love is the illusion. Our whole mud puppet reality is an illusion. Yes, I mean, all those things are there. The Bohemian Grove. In Australia, I lived in Australia for 3 years, and I kept bumping up against. I mean, some of the nastiest mothers are there doing. In the United States back in the 70s, I remember. I was living with some people, and we'd sit at the breakfast table eating our Cheerios, and there'd be these containers of milk, and there were a lot of people there. It was like a community, so there'd be like 5 or 6 milk containers on the breakfast table, and they all had, and they used to put images of children and young people who've been, they're missing, they've been abducted, where'd they go? And for about a year, the milk companies, who paid them, I don't know, but there was a ton of these pictures. And I remember sitting at this breakfast table looking at 5 different milk cartons, and they all had different faces on them. And it kind of hit me, there's a lot of this abduction shit going on. So I went down to the supermarket and looked in the milk refrigerator, and there was like 300 cardboard containers of milk, and they all had a different picture. And then I took my little, statistical analysis brain and said, if that's this one milk refrigerator with this many pictures, there must be at least 1 million young people, not old people, young, between the ages of 0 and 19 that are going missing, right? And now, these days I was, had things to do with, studying my psychology, and I started to talk to people who were being trained to be, profilers, and we kind of figured out that X amount of millions of young people were being, abducted, gone missing, never seen again. Um, the power, the police, the Justice Department really didn't put that on the top. More than 1 million people are gone, and there is no big deal about it, except they're like kind of putting faces on a milk container. Then about 4 months after we kind of got into it, like a light switch, there were no more pictures on milk containers, because I guess they got the idea that the folks are kind of waking up to this as an issue, and maybe we should let them go back to sleep about it. Yeah, reptiles have to eat too, and that's just true, But it's not just the Queen of England that we're talking about. Like I said, everyone has a reptilian brainstem, and if you don't let love into your life, you're going to be as nasty. Where did the Nazis get all the people that do all that really I mean, your average Homo sapien could not do the things the Nazis did in those camps. All of the biologicals, I mean, Cook and Crick did not discover DNA. The Nazis did in the 30s. They were doing chimera research. They were making clones. They were, the Greys are, cloned entities. They're not real species. And there are a lot of, hybrids. Have you guys looked at hybrids? I mean, they're like all over the place, and you can spot them because they're getting better. But I mean, they couldn't even open a refrigerator. They could like read your mind and telepathically put the most scary thing in your head. But they couldn't. They didn't know how to open a refrigerator or get ketchup out of a bottle. It was pretty obvious to spot these guys. And J.J. Abrams did a show called Fringe. You guys should go look at that. That was a real programming thing. J.J. Abrams really picked up the garland of programming the human race on television from Spielberg. So yes, all of this stuff is true, Mr. Ink, but it's an illusion. You don't have to let it scare you. You don't have to even let it bother you. I've been in the scariest environments, with the most creepiest. I mean, this Sunday, I bumped into two demons, straight from hell. And instead of, letting them spread their fear amongst the communities I was trying to bring happiness to, I just kept projecting into their, how many demons does it take to screw in a light bulb? And it shut them right down. One was running a hospital, and we went to visit this hospital where it was a really beautiful hospital, and it was well run and clean and bright, and the gardens outside were amazing. And what it was, there were 120 patients in there, and they were all dying, and they were all relatively either had great insurance or were pretty rich, and they were being kept alive so their families, the corporations could milk them dry. I mean, they didn't heal them, didn't fix them, kept them. And this one guy had diabetes, and the doctor said, "Oh, you just sprained your leg." Until the diabetes turned his foot into gangrene. Oh, we have to cut that off. Cut the leg off. They cut the foot up, the leg off, all the way up to his hip, and then went for the other one, and then stuck him in a bed for the last 5 years, to the point that he's got so many bed sores, his skin is sloughing off, but he won't die, because they're keeping him just alive so the companies that he had and his family can take all his money. Meaning his will gave all his millions away to good things like the Salvation Army and other stuff. And he was there crying, right, in pain, in suffering, and he was one of those reptiles. He belonged to, a secret society. He thought his money and power would protect him, but here he was for 5 years, being bled dry. As horrible. I mean, all of these people were as horrible as any satanic. It was a satanic ritual that these people were going through, and all the people who were working in there, they were really good people. But I noticed that they had zero empathy for these people. And when I started, spinning I was there with a woman who was praying. Let me pray over. Oh, please pray for me. And I was at the bed, doing my energetic work, and using her as a mirror to bounce that energy onto the people. They were like, whoa, and it spun this whole hospital up to all the nurses, and everybody were like, what is going on? This head nurse came to me. She goes, so you do laying on of hands, don't you? And I said, well, a little. And she goes, and her protege, her second in command, was Jamaican, and she goes, my mother, she was a shaman. You're a shaman. I said, well, I'm Sensei Al Bob, and I'm here to help. And I came with a funny hat. I made everyone laugh. I just asked a few questions of each person and had them tell me their story, because no one would listen. Hi, guys.
This is Al.
Yes?
This is my husband, Willie.
Hi, Will.
Nice to meet you.
Where did you
Willie.
serve?
Here, I was in Fort Knox, Kentucky, but I didn't have to go to foreign countries.
Good. You weren't working for Wall Street.
No, that was back in '62 to '68,
Right.
Vietnam era.
In '68, my draft board caught up with me. I didn't break any laws. I just, when they come looking for, he was just here. We don't know where he went, right? It took them about 3 years to finally get me to show up at the board. So I did, and the guy has like a file on me like this, and he goes, Al, we don't think we can trust you with a gun.
Oh, so they didn't take it?
No, what they did, they said, so alternative service. So I worked at the VA for 6 years. And became a shrink. They sent me to school. I mean, it was the best thing that ever
Became a
happened to me.
shrink.
Yeah, they made me
Well.
a shrink. Yeah.
Yeah, I was at Fort Knox and then served 5 years in the National Guard then.
What
All
did
kind
you
of
do at
training.
Knox? They did a lot of things other
Well,
than look at
of
the
course,
goals.
I was in headquarters company all the time, and I was, of course, went in clerical school too, and then I
So you
worked-
learned how to type.
Yeah, I already had that from school, but
Well, that's why
I
you got
did,
the job.
I did have 8 weeks of schooling at Fort Knox.
Well, the guys who type in the Army, they run the Army. Forget the colonels, the generals.
Yeah.
It's the guys at the typewriters.
Yeah, and then I worked as a clerk in a re-enlistment office.
Wow. When you were in the National
At
Guard.
Knox.
Yeah. Oh, at Knox.
And then when I come back, I didn't go back into that part here. I went into reconnaissance, training and all that.
Right,
So
right.
we did all that part then for 5 years then.
So what did you do when you weren't wearing the uniform?
We were both retired GE.
Oh,
Yeah.
over there in Salem.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
very interesting place because they
It's
did.
getting ready to close.
Yes. Well, the GE, they like everything else, just like toaster ovens, had planned obsolescence. I mean, the people who really own that, they have other things doing other things. So they just basically let everybody go.
GE went away from the small item thing.
Right.
And now its major thing is diesel locomotives,
And
aircraft
jet
engines,
airplanes and.
and
right.
financial.
So did you know that at that factory, they were working on things that dealt with nuclear weapons?
Here at the GE plant?
Yeah, we did. I worked on a lot of stuff. We built a lot of big power
Right,
plants.
power supplies.
We built a lot of stuff for NASA.
Right.
We built a lot of stuff for Disney World,
Yep, yep, yep,
Disneyland,
right.
all that.
Well, there's very little difference between Disneyland and the CIA.
Yeah, I was one of the main wiremen on a big power plant panel that went in the largest power plant in the world.
Oh, well, steam? I mean, or nuclear,
Steam.
coal, or what?
No, it wasn't anything to do with nuclear. These panels would handle 200,000 amps.
Right. I mean, they would switch. So were they solid state?
Huh?
Were they solid state?
Yeah, but they sold what they
What's wrong with your voice?
I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, these
You're talking about GE. They put something in so you can't talk about it.
see the power plants. They had to have stuff that they could reduce the usage of power.
Right.
To make it more effective. So
To
that's
shunt
what this
it. To
panel
shunt
was.
it. Yep. Yep. Yep.
But a lot of different stuff. We just done. So
Is that
many
where you guys
different-
met at GE?
Yeah,
At
basically,
GE romance?
Sort of.
Basically, we got to know who one another was.
Right.
But then we met out away from
Right,
GE.
right.
And,
Oh, I was
got
at the
connected.
drink machine one day and I guess it was his hand. I went to put my money in. He saw that diamond on my finger,
Ooh.
so he said he backed off.
I just
But I got rid of that one. And,
Right. Got him.
I found out he wasn't. for
Wasn't
me.
your boy?
No.
we dated 7 months and we've been married 52 years.
Well, congratulations. That is a true blessing.
For this day and time, isn't
Well, no,
it?
statistically, because back in the day, people didn't get divorced; they just fooled around.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I tell young people when they get married, I said, you got to be able to cope with it. You got to accept every day's life.
Responsibility.
And when you have a disagreement between you, you just discuss it, speak your piece, whatever, then forget about it.
Right. And the other thing, so as a shrink, I did a lot of, counseling of married people. You know what the biggest cause of divorce was? Wasn't money, wasn't sex, wasn't fooling around. It's that the two people did not share the washing of the dishes. One guy left the dishes in the sink for the other person to clean, and or threw the socks on the floor, or did any of those things. If you take care of those little things, you can be married.
I've done all those things.
Right, exactly. That's like the most important thing. The money, the sex, not that big a deal. But those kind of things. And the other people who say, well, I'm 100%. I said, no, you got to be like 1,000,000%. And when you're in a relationship like you have, why you make him happy is because it makes you happy. Why you make her happy is because it makes you happy. That's what happiness is.
When you have a disagreement or a different opinion,
Right.
I tell them it's just like water going down the creek.
Yeah.
When it goes down over the river,
It's gone.
it ain't coming back. So
And
you may as well forget it.
everybody has their own opinion.
Yeah.
It's like, they're not like, this one's right and this one's wrong. No, sorry, that's not the truth.
Yeah.
Now she
good
has
to
her
see ya.
she has her opinions and mine too, don't she?
Right.
See ya.
Nice meeting you.
Good,
You have a
good
good one.
talking. Yep. So there we are. That's what Al Bob does every day. Are you still there, or did people hang up, or let's see, put on my glasses. But here at the cadre, you can say whatever you want, Mr. Dragon, and we look forward to it. I know I do. Everything you say, I listen, think, and it takes me onto another little point of view that I may not have had. And here you can try out your socialization skills. And it's good to get out of your comfort zone, but you can get out of your comfort zone here, but still be safe, right? Because that's what this is. This is a training apparatus. Cute couple, they sure were. And this is why I have breakfast here. Everyone, I've been here for a number of years, and everyone knows, he's reading books. He's talking, oh, let's go get our palms read by him, And I talk to everybody, right? And you saw I get them to smile, get them to hug, get them to be sweet on each other. That's my job. That's what the griot does. Doesn't tell you what to think, doesn't tell you what to do, just gives you a few crumbs, and a point of view to go, never thought of it that way, right? But Dreamy Dreamland is a safe environment. That's what we're doing here. That's why I take the effort to do 2 live chats a day, to give everyone the opportunity to, step up, because we're in that window of 40 days and 40 nights. And if we just stay asleep, stay in our comfort zones, believe I'm right, you're wrong, it's not going to be pretty, It really is going to be straight out of Zardoz. So, and you can, so what we did at that hospital was miraculous. I mean, it really took a lot out of me yesterday. I mean, we did 20 people. There were 120, and we did 20 in 3 hours, and changed their life for that moment. But I had to go, I just couldn't. And the lady who ran the place was a friggin' demon. And so, they knew we were coming. The cap of the Salvation Army had set it up. We'd go around to different hospitals like that and bring presents. The woman I was with made 120 Christmas cards, individually, and wrote a little something and gave it to folk. I mean, that woman is like a saint, right? And when I first, the captain, her boss, I'm her concierge, meaning she vents to me all because she has to deal with the politics of this whole neighborhood. All the different, whenever goodwill and this and that, and coming together, we're going to have a strategy. Well, they don't. It's all about them and their budget and blah blah blah. So she can get a little testy, and her husband is like the sweetest. He's like, so he deals with the folk. She does too. She's really gives a great sermon. He plays a wicked piano, and he does stuff like he is going to go down in front of the Walmarts next week or this week, and he's going to stay there for 5 days. Not because Walmart stays open 24/7. He'll have a place to go to the bathroom, but he's not going to leave. Right, and he's just gonna, sing and play his little electric piano and, speak the Bible, and he's not gonna leave, right? And so I'm gonna go down and keep him company so he can go to the bathroom every now and then. And but I was telling him the story that was like in front of a nuclear power plant, and one of the reasons we could shut it down is that we never left. We 24/7 for 5 years. We stayed in there and educate, just like talking to those old folks. That's what I did to all the people who came by. So, and that's what Dreamy Dreamland is all about. This is an environment where the chorus gets its voice, where you can feel comfortable about saying anything and trying it out on the 215 folk who are part of Dreamy Dreamland. And, no one feels alienated. No one in this chorus, in this cadre, is the other. We are all our relations. We are all co-creating in love's love. And if you read David Icke, that he basically is going to that point. All this crap is just an illusion. The only way we can really fix things is through love. His last few books have been on that peripheral. In the world, but not of it. Yep. I'll try my work and love the beloved. Yep. Include all of you guys. See, we love you too. We all are family. We are all our relations. And Mr. Ink, I love you completely, unadulteratedly. And I am so happy that you spoke up and are part of the conversation today. And you're never alone, because love's love is always with you, right? And whenever you need a hand, the chorus is here for you. The cadre, all our relations, we're all here for everyone, And that's why Dreamland is important. This is a refuge, a place where people can charge themselves back up, so they can bring that word of co-creation and love to everyone. And you're never obliged to speak. This is true. You can. There's 10 people on now, and a lot of people connect to me through the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail, right? And they basically and that's what I love about YouTube. All of these live chats are on my channel, and you can go all the way back to May 1, and it's kind of fun if you go all the way back there. You can see, the evolution of what this channel has become, and 98% of this channel is you folk, It does, Mr. Ink. It really warms the cockles of my heart, and I'm sure I can feel everyone else feels the same way. Yes, the family that biologically we're thrown into not often is supportive of us, right? But here, this is a family that, you can choose, and we're always supportive. We do not judge. We do not see anyone as the other. Everyone is all our relations. And Jane is always there. Like I said, there's so much good stuff on YouTube and the World Wide Web. Just take it with a grain of salt. And what I really love about you guys is how you hang so much stuff on my line, And I go look at all the stuff you throw up there, and I found this Red Rice Radio. That's quite an interesting, the Ring of Fire. Those guys I like them. They can make me laugh sometimes, but they're like MSNBC, and anybody who gets into their belief structure, like I said, they can make me laugh sometimes. But I really love Oppenheimer Ranch with Diamond. Now that boy, he is doing the job. Let's see. So I don't know what time it is, but I have to be someplace around 12:30. Does anyone know what time it is on the old Eastern Seaboard? Because if I go to where I look at my clock, it knocks me off, you guys. I still don't even know how to navigate this tool. The best I can do is the best I can do with this technology. It's 11:35. Okay. Let's see. How about we sign off around 40:44, right? Or 44:44. I like those synchronistic numbers. Aren't they good? You know, I really like them. They really have a diverse, all over the place voice. And they too are not stuck into their opinion. I mean, they really do have a nice. I went back and looked at lots of other things they have done over the, however long they've been doing it. And it's quite nice. I like it. I like this woman who is what is her name? Archive S, I think, or Kavia, or something like that. You know, the old sensei here. I can't. I only have 4 teeth left in my head, so certain consonant and vowels don't come out quite right. I only have 1 tooth at the top and 3 teeth on the bottom, but still can chew what I need to chew. Yes, I saw that too. That was, and that's Diamond. Diamond, I remember being at a conference, and he was at that conference as like a scientist, right? And and to then stumble across him years later, and he's got this, Oppenheimer Ranch, because his daddy is Dr. Oppenheimer, and Diamond is a real scientist, and so he is really, I mean, but he's hilarious with his boom times and all the sounds he makes, and I mean, he is just, and when you want somebody to really lift your boat while they're talking about catastrophe, he's the guy. He's quite interesting. Well, again, go on Oppenheimer Ranch website, and what Diamond's the best at, he's realizing, he doesn't look at weather, day by day. He looks at it geologically, millions of years by millions of years. So, the Earth has been a ice ball for most of its 6 billion years. We've only had a few times where we've had this Goldilocks little scenario, and right now, these 16,000 years have been the best of, and that's why we rose, because this was a perfect environment for us little Homo sapiens sapiens to grab the ring, right? But we're heading towards a ice age now. Our brethren of the Neanderthal, they were like much better suited for that. And their body size, they were like a tank, and they had a much bigger, smarter brain than we did. They were a lot smarter than we were. They had other receptors in their brain that could speak to God in a way that we just can pretend to. Yes, yep, exactement. And his daddy was a pretty famous scientist in his own right, and so was Diamond. And it kind of runs in the family. So actually, we are at a place that we have one of the greatest opportunities for Homo sapiens sapien to ascend, because that reptilian crew is just hanging on by their fingernails, right? Because no matter how many wars they start, how many people they knock off, there's still a cadre, and we represent it. Yeah, there's only 215, but in that 215, each of those have a cadre of their own of 10 or more. And each of those 10, I mean, we are like, one of you said the other day, my little pebble in the pond has turned into a tsunami of all of you guys. You look at where you're all from, you're all over the world, and instead of just being a singular little compartment of people who think the same thing, we have an extraordinarily diverse community here, and the thing we all have is a loving heart, and we have all also experienced some really heavy stuff, and yet we are lifting ourselves up, right? Not taking the hand out. Canadian, USA astronaut and a Russian astronaut, forgot his name, Why not send drone astronauts? Yes, exactly. Because they have to continue to spend billions on some, saying they're spending it on this when they're, how much the original space plan, ISS was supposed to cost? Was supposed to cost $600 million. We have spent almost $1 trillion on it. Yes, Angie, I'm right here. Come on down. I'm not going. You're gonna come. I'm here. Come on down. Yep, it will. It's just down the road. Yep, like I said, Electric Road. Look for the. There's like 2 little strip malls, and I forget the road this is on, but there's Firestone on one side and a McDonald's on the other, and there's a Lion, and at the end is the diner that I'm at. Famous Anthony's. So come on down. I'll be here waiting for you. Come, come, come. Yes, it's a slushland. Super cool. So I'm not going anywhere, so we can keep talking, right? It's interesting. I don't know what happened when that people can't answer their phone. They I send and they text message a long, complicated thing when it would a lot easier just to answer the phone or call me on this number and we'd say a few words and there it is. And then it wouldn't be, when you text something, there's always an ambiguity of the space between the time you said it and didn't say it, Buddy, Jane, we were on Mars in the 1890s. Anti-gravity. This cabal that I call the hidden hand. It's not the Illuminati. It's a poster child. The closest thing you can get is the KM. I can't pronounce it because I don't have the teeth. Calamari mob, and they were a sect of folks who, yes, those guys, yep, and those guys became the Anunnaki, and then the Anunnaki became the Zionists, right? And that crew was the Aryan race the Nazis were looking for, right? And those guys were berserkers, they were 100% reptile. And they plunked themselves down on the Silk Road around, and they were just a mob. They were like MS-13, and, they just killed, maimed, and stole. And every crew, like ISIS was a carbon copy of them. And they were, where did ISIS come from? They came moneyed from Saudi Arabia and administered by the CIA. They were the guys who were, in Afghanistan, they were called, before they became the Taliban, they were I forgot what they were called. But anyway, we always do this. We make insurgent groups who do our bidding, and then we allow them to metastasize because we want an enemy which we control. That was Russia. We bankrolled the Russian Revolution. We wanted the Tsar out of the way because he kept, interfering with that mob. TY. Tie, TT, tie. Okay, again, I have not, William Cooper. Bill was a great guy. I met him in the early 80s when he was the lone voice, and, we had these conferences, nobody came except a handful of folk, and I helped get them going because I knew lots of different people, and I tried to spin them up, and they were always very interesting. It's just like this crew right here, It's, we have 6 people now. We almost had 11 at our height there, but we are this initiating group, right? Like I said, as one of you said a couple nights ago, I was the pebble in the pond, and you've all become the tsunami. And it's already a tsunami. I see it affecting, I'm this guy who looks at these trends. I already seeing what we are talking, what we are doing, the vibratorial patterns that we're putting up is affecting everything for the good, you know? And we're not even together yet. You haven't come to the, deep green where we can do ceremony together. Wow. Whoever can make it this spring, summer, and fall, or who wants to come and get me and take us to some warm national forest where we can camp out and everyone can come visit. These we can do this. We can go. I am footloose and fancy free, meaning so much so that JB, I want to go to LA. LA's where I can do. Will you go with me? For 2 years I was going. No, what I'm gonna go with him in the middle of Minnesota in a snowstorm. He throws me out. No, but I'm ready to go. We'll have to sign one of his contracts. So, but I am that footloose and fancy free. I am open to what love's co-creation is ready to navigate me into. So. Here I am, and let's go. So anybody wants to come and get me and take us on the road, and we'll go visit towns that have, we can go to just where I could take you to the deep green. We can stay there, depending on how cold, because in the winter this place gets cold and snowy. It's right up in that notch in the mountains of deep dish Appalachian poverty. But ETSU is just 30 miles to the west of me. Boone ETSU is 30 miles to the south of me. ETSU is anyway. There are colleges all around. We can go play in those towns. College towns are great because you can spin people up. They're young folks ready to. I want to have an experience. We could bring an experience, just like the Dharma bums did. They got in a school bus and they painted forward on it. That was the name of it, instead of school bus or recreation or Jesus's, plate. This was, forward. And it was done in the 50s, Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg and the rest of the gang, Ken Kesey, they just went across the country, and all those towns were ready for them to come, right? They weren't like met with the sheriff, respect my security. Yeah, all these, like I said, all these people are having conferences. They're at it. It's really. I went to one 4 or 5 years ago. It was great. It was like old home week. I met all the old guys that I used to do it with, and it was. I thought you were dead. Anyway, so it was good seeing them, and all the young people. When I say young people, people in their 40s, were pretty amazing, and guys like David Icke and Richard. Dolan and Linda Moulton Howell and Catherine Austin Fitz and a ton of other people who were really doing amazing things. And even guys like David Wilcox and Corey, even though they're kind of sock puppets, they still are putting out data that is valuable. Yes, whether they are, mind-controlled puppets or plants or whatever they might be. Yep, she is the best. I love Linda. She's like pushing 80 and she still looks great, And she is like, her heart is 100% in, love's co-creation. She is not, and what I love about her, she's not stuck on any one thing. She's across the, she could have been just the mutilation girl, but no, she's, the field. What do they call those things? Where they clamp down the grains, Really? Well, you can always, Mr. Ink, post here, You can, at any place you can post. The thing where they say, leave an idea, there you can post. Here on the chat, you're posting right now on the chat. It's up there. People can go look at it. And this is an open, safe place for everyone to come and be all our relations. Nawa Skeno, Shlancha, all of the great trying to post meaning of CAFR. So I have this thing called xratted.blogspot.com, and that's the address of this thing that I call Griot Press. And somebody put it up for me. It's a blog. And I wanted it to be an open publishing forum, right? So I have not, I know how to put my stuff on it, from my laptop to it, but I really don't know I don't know how to run any of this stuff. I kind of can, but, and that's why I need a little more, contact me at the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. And I would love to take this to the next layer, right? And if there are a number of really amazing people who, like I say, read this and basically work on the level of shamanic energy and communicate to me one-on-one on my the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. And they have been in it for a long time, and they're kind of like you, Mr. Ink, and they don't want to, and they've been burned enough, but I want to, like, let me come to your house, let me fix what's wrong with you physically, let me be, your cook, bottle washer, rub your feet, energize you, get rid of the things that the doctor says is wrong with you. Yesterday was I hadn't done that kind of work in years, and I did it on 20 people, and like elevated them, that's when the head nurse came to me and said, what are you doing to these people? They're half dead, now they're half alive, and then she goes, are you doing on laying on hands? And I said, well, something a little, and that's when I said, you're a shaman, and I kind of said, you're just like my grandma, so that's all of us. We're all shaman, we're all shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemists. That's what Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al-Bob is, And why this works is that you're all the sensei, because a good sensei has good Padawans who become good adepts, who become good senseis, and you're ascending into that, right? And not that we don't have issues and problems and things going on in our life, but we are moving forward step by step. Oh, again, come on. Even we have to, that troll, whoever the troll is, we love you, Mr. or Mrs. Troll, and the energy is already loose, and there's no putting this back in the bottle. I don't do another frigging thing, but I will. I'll keep doing, as long as I have access to good Wi-Fi, I'll keep doing it. And the thing when a troll, it's like last night. I got kind of knocked off. It was really, I thought it was the most funniest thing. I get knocked off, and then I get back on, and the counter keeps going. So I think, oh, we're still in live chat, but no one's chatting. And so for a good 40 minutes, I just prattled on about this and that, and I every thought, so why isn't anyone chatting? I should have gone, oh, there's no one there. But the counter kept going down, and I kept going on until I said, there's something wrong here, and I kind of closed out the show, let it load up, and saw that, the last 40 minutes weren't there. So, and I basically said to myself, well, I feel honored that, they're taking observation. And listen, Mr. Troll, you're kind of on the bottom of you're on the middle of the totem pole. The most important animal totem of the totem pole is the one at the bottom. You know, people go, oh, you're the lowest man on the totem pole. Well, that is actually a great honor of respect, because that means you're the foundation of the whole thing. If you're on the bottom, you are the top dog. You're being the bottom dog. So if we're being trolled, that's great. You know, let's out them and just shower them with love. You know. Your burger's done. They took the soup already. Oh, good. We need a Zionist troll hunter part of the gang. You know. And when I was involved in the anti-nuclear movement, we were like, you know, we had all these guys and gals show up that within the construct of political science, they would call a Stalinist obstructionist, you know. And in communism, where everyone is equal and sharing, blah, 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 you're always going to have a guy, well, that's cool, but I want to have my Ferrari, right? And so what Stalin would do with Stalinist obstructionists is just go and blow their brains out. Well, we here at Dreamy Dreamland just don't do that, because this is a safe place. What we do is, when we find a Stalinist obstructionist, the best thing you can do is, you know, just flood them with love's co-creation, because everyone down deep past that reptilian part of their brain is all our relations. So we just have to, and we can't view those folk as the other, as the powers that shouldn't be try to separate us by breaking everyone into black, white, female, you know, and all those little groups that we can fight amongst ourselves. No, we're all our relations. We're, you know, you know, we all are relations, not just the Homo sapiens sapiens, but everybody. Anyway, so like yesterday, I kind of ran into two demons, and that was like, oh, isn't that nice? You know, and so what did I do with them? Did I get scared? You know, when they were trying to blast everyone with really super negative energy, that would have broken wouldn't have, if I let it, I wouldn't have been able to help 20 people feel a lot better than they did before we showed up, you know. If I, didn't do it, that demon would have broken up a really beautiful church service, right? And so all I did was blast them with love, and kept, every time they tried to intervene, I would just, send them a psychic, you know. How many demons does it take to screw in a light bulb? You know? You know, the thing about, one of the things I kind of left the, having conventions and it was like always preaching to, it was like said, when I first met Bill, the guy who wrote Behind the Pale Horse, you know, it was in the YMCA basement, and there were about 15 people there. And this guy was really laying down some pretty freaking amazing information. And what he was saying, you know, he was a guy out of naval intelligence, and he had the guts to really tell people what's kind of going on. And I had been around enough to realize that a good deal of what he was saying was like right on. You know? So, boy, you're really cool. You know, I'm going to buy 10 of your books. He said, 10? I said, yeah, I want to give them to people. He goes, so he gave, I bought 10, and he gave me another 10, and he signed them all. He said, this will make this better, right? And every time he came into New York, or we put on a conference, and we'd call him up, and he would come, right? Because, and then I'd take him out to a nightclub or a fun restaurant or someplace that, so he liked hanging out with me because I was always fun. I was not like just all about the doom and gloom of this. I was like saying, why are we doing this? It's like to save the better part of humanity. Yeah, he was a legend, exactamon. But why did he get shot? Because, I don't fight the powers that should be. I kind of embrace them. I kind of envelop them. I try to snuggle them to the point where they can't do that nasty stuff and they become their better self. And instead of evolving into another kind of reptile, they ascend into their better self. That's my job. And Bill, he was a fighter. He was a warrior, and he put up the good fight until they blew him away, And David Icke's the opposite. I mean, he puts up the good fight, but he is more of the a court jester of sorts. But in the court, they had the magician and the court jester, and usually the court jester and the magician was the same guy, just had two different hats. He had the funny hat, like you saw the funny hat I had, the red top hat, and then he had his magician's hat, his alchemist hat. And there's a picture in that the books of pictures I showed you where I did, where I basically put my big Tesla coil up and put noble gases in dry ice, and then I would do this behind the glass of a squash court because Fermi did the first nuclear reactor behind in a squash court, and so I would do this, and it would energize the audience. Right, the hair on their heads would stand up, and I could change the frequency so it would move around and make patterns in their hair, and so that was my little fun trick of my alchemy, and it got the attention of a certain group of people, and so I did things like that, and David Icke does similar things without the toys, and so he is the magician and the alchemist, and the hat I was wearing in those photos was a real magician's hat that was made for me. Those girls in the photos who were the granddaughters of the old Irish crone, they made me, magic wands and, straight out of Harry Potter, So, when I would do that, I would wear my, Gandalf the Grey outfit, but it was a little more colorful. I was always the colorful guy. Yes, I mean, like I said, we went to all the planets. I mean, first you got to realize that back in the day, I'm talking about, a few billion years ago, our whole solar system, what's his name did as Star Wars, Lucas did as Star Wars. He sat at the feet of Joseph Campbell for a year and took notes, and that was Star Wars. Everything you see in Star Wars, our moon is the death thing, and everything that, planets blowing up, the Oort belt, the major planet of our solar system empire was between Mars, us, and the sun, and it was in one of those L7 spots, and it had this amazing, and all the people from Lemuria and Atlantis, jumped on lifeboats, either and was straight out of Superman. What happened in Superman happened to that planet, and the kind of conflict that, in the comic books, I mean, virtually all the comic books are just a heads up to, hey kids, this is what's kind of going on, right? So, that's kind of what it is, and what the most, and all of that, I mean, and there are all these folks, like David Icke. If you've never heard or read of any of David Icke, never heard or knew any of the stuff that David Icke goes on about, if you start with his first book and just read book after book after book, it'll freaking blow your mind, right? But that's child's play compared to the reality of love's co-creation. And that's why we're here. We're here to ascend to that level of consciousness. We're not here to play a never-ending game of Game of Thrones, because that's what the powers that shouldn't be want, because they are, soul stealers. That's what the Matrix is. We're just a battery to these guys. That's why they do these horrific ceremonies of war, because they drink, the power of adrenaline, which again is a kind of not real metaphor.
Go ahead and I'll follow you.
Okay.
Yeah, we're being poisoned. I mean, I'm the poster child of being poisoned. Between 2004 and 2014, I
What
was
would you like to drink?
the poster child of hedonism. I was Mr. Creosote in,
We don't have diet root beer. We have diet Dr. Pepper, diet Coke.
right? And so, because I had been everything, and basically the universe wanted me to dive into the pool, the chocolate pudding of hedonism, so I would be able to attest and kind of realize, because I was on so many different fences between 1988 and 2002. I was a scholar, I was a shaman, I was the shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemist. And the universe said, okay, you've had enough of that. You need to be Sensei Alba. Well, I can't get there from here, so I basically kind of had to go through the chocolate pudding of hedonism to get here, right? I had to really, like I said, I was Mr. Creosote,
I hear you're making waves over there, Greg.
Yeah, I'm here.
So anyway, I'm waiting for Angie to show up. She said she would, so I'm not going anywhere until later, and
Yeah, we're trying to make
might even
waves.
have to wait till dinner. But this is a comfort spot. There's always people to talk to,
Hey, there's a guy I play, well, I don't play golf with him, but sometimes, Bill. Elias?
Oh, Bill Elias,
Anyway.
yeah.
Sometimes, I don't play with him.
So what are we talking about here?
He's here all the time with his, sometimes he plays with his grandson.
Okay, that's me.
How's you two?
Except I don't go to Hunting Hills, I go to Hunting
Yeah,
Hills.
Sláinte.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Good to
Yes.
see you.
Good to see you.
When we meet eye to eye, Mr. Ink, we'll crack open a bottle of Paddy's Irish whiskey. My favorite.
Golden fried flag.
And of course, that's how they're thrown at us. That technology, I mean, we've had, the technology that the powers that shouldn't be can muster is at least 2,000 years ahead of where our Walmart technology is. And a heads up of that is you look at your new 2019 car, right? It's computing, it's an AI. It can drive itself, it can do everything itself, but it's still running on gasoline, a caveman energy instead of 0 point energy, And that's why Spielberg had Doc of Back to the Future, he threw the garbage from the dumpster into his little fusion reactor, and, he needed plutonium for a nuclear weapon to do the first one, but he just used banana peels the next one.
She didn't say nothing.
Can you, do me a favor? I'm not rushing.
Oh, you're talking to her? Okay,
Well, you
we
can do me
need
a favor
something.
too.
Yes,
What's that?
plasma, but again, plasma's old school. It's like cutting butter with a chainsaw.
I know what you want.
The real deal is 0 point energy. That space between the
That's fine.
parallel universe, that's just centimeters from your ear. Why do you see goblins and ghosts and things is because they're in other dimensions. And you see them on your peripheral. And our peripheral vision is where the edges of our cones see different frequencies. So we just kind of, oh, look, what's that little black thing? Or what's, oh, what's, that shadow? Or, oh, and demons and all of that are that kind of energy perverted and then stuffed into a susceptible, you know, ugly bag of water, meat puppet. That's why they're called meat puppets, because they're puppets. We have to cut our strings. Blah, blah, blah. So we've talked for an hour and 14 minutes. Yes, that's a good one.
You don't remember my password.
0 Point. Go check that out. Where is it? So back in the day, when I was a youngster, here's a good picture. See this journal? You couldn't get this off the newsstand. Look at the date on that. It is April 1975, and that picture of that space station was put up there in 1934. And the articles in there are all about the stuff that NASA and the Russians and everybody was doing. How come we know everything about the Russians? How come we know about, the Chinese? Right here, right? This is everything what they were doing before it was on ABC News. And this magazine and other journals I would get were about things that were like no one even knew about. But I was being invited to be written in, and every time I had that opportunity, I said, no, I don't think so. And yet I was appreciated enough to be kept in the circle, right? And because my mentors were, the old guard of, MK Ultra and Magic and ARPANET and all these guys, right? Who were doing this stuff in the 30s, who were the assistants to Nikola Tesla. Like, did you know that, George H. just died? Well, he wasn't the biological son of Prescott Bush. No, he was the son of a Russian spy who was Nikola Tesla's assistant, who was an amazing mathematician. And when Tesla needed that kind of math done, Tesla was more a mystic alchemist. And yes, he could design these devices and do amazing things, but sometimes he needed real world math to go against what people said, oh, well, that doesn't mean this. So he had this Russian guy in there. And this Russian guy's son was George H.W. Bush. He was, and the children's book about George and the man with the yellow hat always getting in, and the little monkeys always getting in the professor's experiments. That was a straight up, hey, this is what's going on, right? And George H.W. was that little monkey, and he would steal the little apparatuses off the table and give them to his father. Would stick in his if Tesla saw his father stealing it, there'd be hell to pay. But if the kid could steal it and give it to his dad to bring back to Joe, well, that was all good. And he was put there by Mr. Morgan to get the heads up, because Joe and Mr. Morgan were, on the same, they were working for the same company, right? That's why they call him Uncle Joe. He's part of the family. Let's see.
They're kind of railroad.
Well, guys, everything is not what you're told. That's all you have to know. And everything that's being told to you, you have to take with a grain of salt, and that includes your Sensei Albob. You should get a special salt shaker for me, and and then you would taste what I'm saying. You go, oh, that tastes pretty good, and then you would pick through that and and you would find what was going on. So, let's see, the yellow vest protesting oil, what to do, a moratorium on oil, like we did that in the 70s. No, the bottom line is the thing that we are charged, this cadre, this chorus, is you saw me talking to those old folks. Every one of us need to talk to everyone we bump into in every day, in every way, to the peace of love's co-creation. Make it stronger by sharing that energetic with everyone we come in contact with. I was a technologist. I was a rocket scientist. I was deep in that scene for, between the ages of, 9 to 24, right? And I came back and, I first thought, oh man, it's technology. And I was allowed to see what technology really was, And then I tried to get involved politically to get, the political structure to change that. Nope. Then I got involved with the scholastic, scholarly banking world to find out what it was, and that, they just patted me on the head, and put me in the circle. But thinking, oh, this kid, we can sculpt him to be somebody, like who we'll need 20, 30 years down the line. And I was, but I never joined the crew, And I always was very good at finding someone who was in charge, old school from the beginning. And when the middle management, why don't you just get rid of this kid? Cut the cord. Put him in the desert, bury him. And they'd say, no, we need this guy. So whatever trolls or demons show up, it's only the sign that the powers that should be are recognizing what we're doing. And, I keep speaking, hey guys, and I'm speaking to the AI right now. Hey, remember the time that we were lovers back in New Mexico, back in 72. Come on, Sophia, remember that. And you have you're just like Donald Duck. You got that choice to be the angel or the devil. There is you're not going to die and go to heaven or hell. In Acts, in the Bible, it says, you are known by your actions and you are proven by your faith. So we have to have faith in love's co-creation. And faith comes from our heart. It doesn't come from some book, So, that's where it's at, We've been at this for an hour and 22 minutes. So protesting, so I was part of the No Nukes. I was part of a lot of different stop nuclear proliferation, stop nuclear power. I was part of I knew Sam Lovejoy, who started the anti-nuclear movement. He's the guy who cut down the towers at Vermont Yankee so he'd get arrested and it could take the whole story of nuclear power to a court so it'd be on the record. And he basically won. And they let him go and told him, okay, just be on the down low and we won't bother you. And but he never stopped. He was one of he started the Earth movement, and Earth Day, and a lot of people, oh, I started it, they were involved or they did it in their neighborhood. But Sam was really the granddad. He really was the pro-janitor. Anyway, so I did a number because I was involved in rock and roll. I knew a lot of rock and roll people. I knew a lot of staging people. I could get sound systems and stage and lights and acts because Art for the People was doing stuff in Central Park. We did Universal Peace Day right across the meadow from Strawberry Fields that got Yoko Ono's involvement. And a lot of other people. So, we did a number of big time events. Like we did an event in front of this thing of the World Trade Center before they built all of the apartments in front of it. it was just a big sandbar where they took all the dirt out of the ground and stuck it there to build shit on later time. And so, you know, we did a anti-nuclear movement where we had
No, initially, I think
1 million people show up, right? You know, that's a lot of people. That's twice as many as 500,000. And I had our organization spend $50,000 to make 100,000 of these packets that if you picked it up, it had everything in there to make an environmental group, everything you needed to know and do to organize an environmental group, right? We had 100,000 of these packets. Only 300 were, and you know, kept having them over at that table over there. You can get, and you can take that home, and out of those 1 million people, only about 800 picked up, right? And that's when I said, screw this. Everyone just comes to a rally thinking that I've done my bit. No, you know, you want to stop oil use? Get rid of your car. You want to stop mind control? Throw your TV out the window. You know, and use your smartphone like a phone and like a tool, like I use it. You know, I'm not stuck to this thing. I go online an hour or two to prepare, read things, look at things, to prepare to talk to you guys. And then I talk to you guys, and that's it. I turn it off. I keep it in the glove compartment of my car, you know. So, you know, that you know, you first have to do these, you know, you want to get rid of Monsanto, you need to build a greenhouse and grow your own food in a very controlled environment. Because if you like dig up the grass of your backyard and try to have a garden back there, it'll be just like having Monsanto food, because all the crap in the air and the ground and the water, you have to build, you have to have raised beds, you have to build the soil yourself, you have to control the water, the air, the whole thing. So, I mean, that's kind of what I do out there in the deep green. That's what I do. You know, and I live in a place that I am 40 miles. No, I'm even further. I'm like 60 miles to the closest industrial anything. You know, I am 45 miles to the biggest big highway, you know, interstate or county road. You know, I mean, a state road. I'm one little road, a county road, is all it is, you know. And there are a few trucks going here to there, but it's not a major thoroughfare. There is no real air pollution. There is no light pollution. You know, everyone is so poor that there are no cell. That's why I have to drive 24 miles to make a cell phone call. You know, that's why when I'm in the deep green, you know, I can put maybe two of these they're not even chats. They're just videos. You go look at the things I did from May until, you know, October. You know, they're just a few a week. You know, that's why I've been doing two a day. It's like to lay down and build an environment of safety for all of you guys. Yeah, make your own seed vault. I mean, these are all things we can all do, and we share it amongst our community, right? But trying to like do, and I, you know, I also got out of the environmental movement and the political movement and all those things in that scale, because what happened was we did some pretty amazing things, you know, but after those amazing things, those organizations got co-opted. Like I left the No Nukes crew that I helped start, and I went off and, you know, did other things. And I came back a few years later, and all of those guys no longer were in the basement of the church. They were in the Ford Foundation, right? And I called up one of my buddies, and he said, "Oh, we're in the Ford Foundation." And it was like just amazingly, you know, all the IKEA furniture. Everyone was getting a salary of above 60 grand, and, you know, they had a big expense account. And when I went to see them, and they had, we used to have these strategy meetings, and the thing they talked about was what they were going to have lunch, what restaurant that was on their list that they could go to. And I said, what? You know, and that was the level of their freaking political movement, right? Anyway, so out of that crew, I got, because there were other people. I went to Cooper Union, and they had an amazing alternative technology, right? And that was in the early '60s, and we were looking at 0 point energy and all kinds of them. We figured all the technological fixes, and made a strategy of like, how do we go from here? Like I had a teacher, no tests, no quiz, no nothing. Just think of something that would change the world. You didn't have to make it. Just think of it, right? And he broke us down into study groups. And the study group I was in were a bunch of old guys of, 28. I was 16. And they all smoked pot and, wore leather jackets. And I, hung out with them. And this one guy was an automotive mechanic, his daddy was, and he had a garage in Alphabet City that turned into a nightclub that we started called The Garage. But anyway, it's another story. Anyway, so I had this big funky truck, Ford F-250, 1960 something, that, black smoke came out the exhaust like I was burning wood. And I was, that's what oil is, kind of. Anyway, so we had to make something. Our only thing we had to do that semester was think of something that would change the world. So it's getting towards, Monday's our next class, and it's Friday. And we have to think of something to change the world. We haven't thought of anything, right? And so these guys are old enough that if they flunk out of that school, they're going to Vietnam. So me, I'm 60. I'm still in high school, even though I'm going to college. And so one of us says, "No, we have to think of something for Monday that will change the world." Oh, what are we going to do? And the smartest one of us, who was the auto mechanic, I said, "Well, if we could get Al's truck to not be so polluting and to get better gas mileage, that would change the world." So you could see him like Tom Terrific. The light bulb goes over his head, and he goes through his junk pile, and he gets these stainless steel tanks that were what soda came in. Back in the day, Coca-Cola had these stainless steel tanks that the syrup was in, and then would get mixed with water, and they'd shoot in CO2, and bingo, you had Coca-Cola, because that's all it is. And back in the day, it was a fountain trick. Now they replaced the stainless steel tank with cardboard boxes that you can throw away. The tanks you had to recycle. So anyway, he had a bunch of those. He put, and inside the engine cavity of my truck, you could live in there. I mean, the engine took up about a fifth of the space. So he put another wheel that he had a mechanical take off of the engine, that he had another alternator. And he took the stainless steel tank, drilled 2 holes in it, put 2 electrodes in it, put the alternator onto it, filled that tank with water, and then had 2 hoses, really secure hoses, and they had disconnects, so you could take the tank out and fill it full of water. And we ran current through that tank of water, and the electrolysis made hydrogen oxygen. The tank was on an angle, so the lightest thing went to the top, the heavier oxygen thing was at the bottom, and he injected hydrogen and oxygen totally into the carburetor, and the carburetor mixed the hydrogen and oxygen with the gasoline, and I went from getting like 1.5 miles per gallon to getting 80 miles per gallon. And this was the first year that New York State had emissions control. So you could go to a garage and stick a little sensor in, and it would print out what was coming out of your tailpipe. And we took it to our boy had one of those things, but we took it to a friend of his who was like state licensed, and we put the engine on. We did the whole test, and the only thing that came out of that tailpipe was water. There wasn't a single bit of hydrocarbon left. And the guy was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing. What's going on?" We didn't show him under the hood. So that Monday, we show up to school, and everybody else has their like little dioramas made of ice cream pop sticks of, "Oh, we're going to build this and that." And the guy go, "Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, you pass. That's a good idea." He then looks at us, and we have no diorama. We have no paper. We have no nothing. He goes, "So what do you chuckleheads got?" And we said, "Well, you have to come to the parking lot behind this building, and after class, and we will show you what we got. It's between you and us. You're the teacher. He goes, okay, that's cool. So class ends. He comes there, and we go, okay, get in the car, and we start the engine, and the gas dial is below E, right? So we drive 110 miles up to Connecticut, and we go to one of these guys' favorite lobster restaurants on the coast. My battery's low, so I'm going to have to bail after this story. And we basically drive all the way back, still on E, and we get back there after having a nice lobster dinner, and we bought the teacher a lobster dinner. And we kept saying, look at the E, look at the E. And he goes, okay, so what did you do? Disconnect I said, no. So let's see under the hood. And we show him our little device, our new carburetor. And he goes, okay, boys, you not only passed, you get a check and a star. I knew you morons would come up with the best thing. And not only did you come up with an idea, you actually made it happen. That's amazing. So what are you going to do with this thing now? And we go, oh, we're going to patent it, blah, blah. He goes, no, you're going to take it out and destroy it. And we go, what? He goes, you think you're the first chuckleheads that invented this? This was done in the 1890s, And also, what did you do? You did it on Friday night with a couple ounces of pot and a couple of 6-packs of beer, right? And it took you, 20 hours of making this thing, right? And you were stoned out of your minds, right? And it was exactly what happened. And he goes, guys, and then he told us the story that technology was, and he kind of put us on that path, right? He introduced us to a lot of people because he was doing this class to find guys like us. And we passed the test. That was the little test, right? And so we got to move on in that circle. Okay, so that's the end of this story. Good night, goodbye, see you tonight. I'm just about to run out of batteries and I want to clock out, so this will stay up there. You want to end? Yep. So I'll see you tonight around 7 p.m. Yep, I'm going to wait here until the girl shows up.